The wine glass hit the floor with a sharp crack that silenced the entire restaurant. Every eye turned toward the man in the gray suit sitting by the window. Marcus DeLange didn't flinch. He simply stared at the trembling waiter who dropped it, then checked his watch. 42 minutes had passed since he ordered. Across the room, Isabella Cruz stood frozen, holding a tray against her chest. She had only been working here for 2 weeks, still learning the rhythm of fine dining, still fighting the urge to panic whenever a rich client raised their voice. But this man was different. His calmness was worse than anger. It was power wrapped in quiet precision. "Sir," she began carefully, "we're serving tables in the order the requests came in. Yours is next." The air thickened. The piano player hesitated mid-note. The manager, Raphael, darted forward, sweat already forming at his temples. "Mr. DeLange, I sincerely apologize. She's new. We'll bring your order immediately." Marcus didn't even look at Raphael. His gaze stayed locked on Isabella. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes," she said softly, meeting his eyes without flinching. "But that doesn't make you hungrier than anyone else." A wave of silence rolled through the restaurant. Someone dropped a fork in the corner. It sounded like thunder. Marcus leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You think that's courage?" "Maybe not," she replied. "But it's fair." Raphael's voice cracked in desperation. "Isabella, please." But she'd already turned away, heading toward the kitchen. Her hands were shaking, yet she didn't look back. Marcus watched her disappear behind the swinging doors, his jaw tight, his breath uneven. For the first time in years, someone had said no to him and meant it. Later that night, when the last guests had left, Marcus was still there. The untouched steak had gone cold. The pianist had packed up. Only the sound of the waves filled the empty room. Through the glass wall, he saw Isabella again. She was laughing quietly with the dishwasher, counting her tips, hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked like someone who had nothing, yet carried herself like someone who had everything that mattered. Her words replayed in his head. "Respect isn't something you order." He stood, straightened his jacket, and left without saying a word. But as the door closed behind him, something small and unfamiliar stirred inside his chest. It felt like shame or maybe recognition. Sometimes the loudest wake-up calls come from the quietest voices. If you're already feeling what Marcus felt that night, take a second to subscribe and like this video, because what happens next will change everything. 2 days later, Marcus DeLange returned to the restaurant. No reservation, no entourage, just him in a dark coat, standing near the glass wall as the ocean wind brushed against it. The same staff froze when they saw him. Raphael hurried out, smiling too wide. "Mr. DeLange, we didn't expect." "I'm not here for dinner," Marcus interrupted. "Is she working today?" Raphael hesitated. "Isabella?" "Yes, but—" "Good," Marcus said and walked past him. Inside, Isabella was wiping down a table near the bar. She looked up and froze for half a second, then continued cleaning as if nothing happened. Marcus stopped beside her table. "You're not afraid of losing your job, are you?" he asked quietly. "I can't afford to be afraid," she said, not looking at him. "Fear doesn't pay the rent." He studied her, searching for something. Apology, gratitude, anything, but found only calmness. "You spoke to me like you knew me." "I spoke to you like a person," she replied. "That used to mean something." Marcus's lips tightened. He was used to winning every argument, every negotiation, but this wasn't business. This was something else, something he couldn't control. "You think I'm a monster," he said. She finally looked at him. "I think you're lonely." The words hit harder than he expected. Loneliness. He hadn't heard that word spoken to him in years. Everyone else called him powerful, brilliant, untouchable. But not lonely. He forced a faint smile. "You're bold for someone who cleans tables." "I serve people," she said softly. "There's a difference." The silence between them stretched. Then Marcus took out a card and slid it across the table. "If you ever need anything, money, help, call me." She looked at the card but didn't touch it. "You still don't get it," she said. Not everything can be bought, Mr. DeLange. Least of all dignity. He stared at her, speechless again. She walked away, leaving the card untouched. Outside, the night wind smelled of salt and rain. Marcus stood alone beneath the flickering streetlight, his reflection trembling in the restaurant's glass wall. For the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful. He felt exposed. He got into his car but didn't drive off. Instead, he sat there, watching Isabella through the window as she cleared tables with quiet grace. Something about her steadiness, her refusal to bend, haunted him. That night he couldn't sleep. He poured himself a drink and stared at the skyline from his penthouse balcony. The city lights flickered below, small and distant, like stars pretending to matter. Her words echoed again and again. "I think you're lonely." He laughed bitterly to himself. Maybe she was right. Maybe power had turned him into a ghost with too much wealth and too little warmth. For once, Marcus didn't know how to silence the truth. Days turned into weeks. He stopped attending parties, stopped barking orders at his staff. His assistants noticed the change but said nothing. In meetings, he seemed distracted, lost somewhere else entirely. One evening, he found himself driving back toward the restaurant without meaning to. It was closed, lights dim, chairs stacked on tables. But through the window he saw Isabella again, alone, sweeping the floor with music playing faintly from her phone. He watched her for a long moment before whispering to himself, "Why do I care?" He didn't have the answer yet, but he knew this. Something in him had cracked, and the man who once demanded respect now wanted to understand it. If you're still watching and you've ever met someone who challenged your pride just by being honest, don't scroll yet. Like this video, subscribe and stay till the end, because what happens next will show that even the coldest hearts can learn to feel again. Marcus woke before sunrise, something he hadn't done in years. He stood by the window of his penthouse, staring at the city below. Its towers, its quiet cars, its people chasing meaning he could no longer find. He poured himself coffee but barely touched it. His mind was still in that restaurant, still hearing her voice. Not everything can be bought, least of all dignity. He'd built his entire life around control. Now one woman's honesty had taken that away. He called his assistant, canceled 3 meetings, and told no one why. That evening, he drove again toward the coast. Not to the restaurant this time, but farther, where the old fishing docks met the sea. He remembered coming there with his father years ago, before the money, before the arrogance. His father used to say, "The sea doesn't care who you are. It only respects the one who listens." Marcus hadn't listened to anything in a long time. He sat there for hours watching the tide roll in and out. Something heavy in his chest began to shift. Maybe this was guilt. Maybe it was the beginning of change. The next morning he called Rafael, the restaurant manager. "The waitress, Isabella. How's she doing?"
Rafael Gesetatid.
"She's fine, I think." "Why? Does she still have that second job?" "Yes, cleaning houses at night. She's trying to pay for her daughter's school." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Keep this between us," he said. "The restaurant rent. You're behind, aren't you?" "How did you?" "I'll cover it. But don't tell her I had anything to do with it." Then he hung up. That week, he began visiting places he had long ignored. His father's old workshop, the orphanage his company once promised to support but never did. He met the director, donated without cameras or headlines, and left before anyone could thank him. Every act of giving felt strange at first, like using muscles that had forgotten their purpose. Yet, with each step, something inside him softened. At night, he'd find himself on the same street where Isabella lived. He never approached. He only watched from his car as she returned home with her daughter, laughing, tired, alive. Sometimes the little girl held her hand up toward the stars. Marcus wondered what it felt like to be that light again. One evening, rain poured hard over Lisbon. Isabella rushed out of the bakery with a bag of bread in her arms, shielding her daughter under her coat. Marcus stepped out of his car with an umbrella and, for the first time, approached. "Miss Cruz," he said softly, "you'll get soaked." She blinked, startled, then smiled faintly. You again? Are you following me now? He shook his head. Maybe I'm just trying to return what you gave me. I didn't give you anything, she said. I just told you the truth. That's exactly what I needed, Marcus replied. They stood there in the rain, two strangers who had changed each other without meaning to. When her daughter peeked from behind her, shy and curious, Marcus knelt and offered her the umbrella. For you, princess. Rain's not so bad when you share it. The girl smiled, her small hands clutching it tight. Isabella looked at him differently this time, not as a man of power, but as someone finally learning how to be human. If this part touched something in you, tap like right now so more people see it. Because what's coming next, the moment that truly changes Marcus, will remind you that kindness always circles back. Weeks passed, and the city began to shift from the warmth of spring into the golden calm of early summer. Marcus DeLange wasn't the same man anymore. He smiled more often, spoke softer, and spent less time behind tinted glass. But one thing still unsettled him. He had changed in silence. No one knew, especially Isabella. She still thought of him as the man who threw his power around like thunder. One afternoon, he walked past the same restaurant where everything began. The scent of roasted garlic and sea salt drifted out through the open doors. He saw her inside, arranging plates, laughing with another waitress. For a moment, he wanted to step in, to tell her what she had done for him. But he didn't. He wanted to show her instead. That night, he called a foundation his company quietly owned. Start a community program, he said. Single parents, education, healthcare. Name it something simple. Maybe the Cruz Fund. The following month, Isabella received a letter. A scholarship had been granted to her daughter, Sophia, along with an invitation to a local community event. She read it twice, confused but grateful. The event took place by the ocean. An open garden filled with families, children playing, and warm food being shared on long tables. When Isabella arrived, she froze. Marcus was there, not in a suit this time but in a plain shirt, helping children decorate cupcakes. She watched quietly as he laughed. Genuine laughter, not the polished kind. When he finally saw her, he didn't look surprised. He simply smiled. You did this? She asked. He nodded. You taught me how to see people again. She didn't know what to say. Why me? Because you spoke when everyone else stayed quiet, he said. You reminded me that respect isn't bought. It's lived. Sophia tugged her mother's sleeve, pointing at a table of cookies. Marcus chuckled. Come on, let's bake together. I'm still terrible at it. They joined the children, rolling dough and laughing when flour covered their hands. For a brief, tender moment, Marcus wasn't the billionaire everyone feared. He was just a man learning to live again. As the sun dipped into the sea, Isabella looked at him and said, You're different. Maybe I just finally became who I was supposed to be, he replied. She smiled. Then I guess we both found something we lost. They stood there as the waves whispered against the shore. No titles, no debts, no pride. Just people connected by the simple truth that kindness changes everything. If the story touched your heart, hit like and subscribe right now. And in the comments, tell me one thing money can't buy. Let's see who truly understands what Marcus finally learned. That love and respect are the only currencies that never lose value.